The recording is, all right, Jim, I'm going to let you take it away.
Wonderful. Over the years, it seems as though the IRS has pigeonholed square dance groups into the 501c7 nonprofit category, but this is absolutely not where square dance groups belong. The 501c7 category is for closed membership groups similar to country clubs and private groups. Any income from non-members or guests, as we square dancers like to call them, would be taxable. Therefore, the 501c7 is not that beneficial to square dance groups because we like to have guests. From its inception in 1981 until 2011, the United Square Dancers of America operated as a 501c4 nonprofit social welfare organization. USDA's vast library of educational materials and its youth scholarship program readily qualified USDA for the most beneficial 501c3 nonprofit status. So in June of 2009, USDA began the painful process. Messing with the wrong computer here, sorry. And submitted an application to become a 501c3. The IRS reviewed our application and denied our initial efforts due to the lack of a dissolution clause within the bylaws. So during the June 2010 annual meeting of USDA, the bylaws were amended to incorporate a dissolution clause, which should be included in any group seeking nonprofit status. As it was initially submitted, it was rejected, and so we resubmitted, and finally in November of 2011, the United Square Dancers of America was recognized as a 501c3 nonprofit. As an organization that prides itself on being a service organization, in 2012, the USDA's Board of Directors authorized the USDA Executive Committee to initiate the process to become a nonprofit group exemption program administrator, which included the approval to pay the IRS the $3,000 group exemption application fee. Again, this was a time-consuming process, initially identifying USDA affiliates who wanted to participate. Finally, with 3 of the USDA affiliates supporting USDA's group exemption application was submitted in December of 2018 during the government shutdown of early 2019, and after some additional prodding from then USDA Presidents Tony and Diana Rock, approval of the IRS was granted by the IRS in December of 2019. By this time, somehow the IRS had reduced their application fee from $3,000 to $2,000, saving us $1,000, but it took us a year to get through the process. And of course, there are plenty of benefits of nonprofit status. And it's simply easier to obtain 501c3 nonprofit status through the USDA Group Exemption Program than through dealing directly with the IRS. As previously indicated, square dance groups that have applied directly to the IRS have typically been denied, even though they are fully qualified. But this status relieves groups from paying taxes. They're eligible to receive grants, we're qualified to receive tax-deductible bequests and transfers. And in fact, we're personally aware of a $100,000 donation that was made to a square dance group. Someone really needed a tax deduction. So it can pay off. You're also eligible to receive donations from corporate donors. They write them off as tax deductions. And then contributors are able to deduct donations to the group from their income taxes. And you also have the possibility to obtain dance facilities at below market rates. Again, there's the eligibility for bulk mail postal rates, although with the electronic era, that's kind of not so beneficial these days, although square dance publications can still use them. You may utilize public service advertising on radio and television to promote activities. And officers and committee chairs of a group that is a 501c3 are eligible to deduct their out-of-pocket expenses when serving the nonprofit entity. In other words, as you attend a meeting of your 501c3 group, you're eligible to deduct those expenses from your taxes. Once a group is recognized as a nonprofit, that designation remains with them as long as they maintain their active membership in USDA and complies with their own governing documents that must actually detail that they follow procedures to conform to the IRS regulations. It is often noted that recognition as a 501c3 organization adds to an organization's legitimacy and makes it more credible in the eyes of the public and other entities. Now, who is eligible? USDA direct affiliates. This may obtain 501c3 nonprofit status without having to deal with the hassle of dealing with the IRS by applying for nonprofit status directly to the United States of America Nonprofit Group Exemption Group. And that's where Pat Inglis and I are the administrators for USDA. My role is dealing with the applications, and Pat's role is dealing with the renewals. Affiliate groups and 53 direct affiliates, generally state organizations that belong to the USDA, are made up of area, regional associations, councils that are organized as a nonprofit organization other than a club, representing square, round, contour, clog, line, or heritage dancers, inclusive from a defined geographical location in the United States of America, which has subscribed to USDA application procedures for affiliate membership, which includes the applicant's organization's agreement to abide by the bylaws and standing rules of USDA, as well as the USDA Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct. These are more or less just common sense guidelines that we as square dancers have operated with for decades. In addition, since June of 2020, local groups that are members of one of the USDA direct affiliates are eligible to apply for group exemption nonprofit status. Associate members or a nonprofit organization of any size, anyway, goes on, basically identifies clubs may apply through USDA to participate in the program. Does anyone have any questions at this point about who is eligible for nonprofit exemption status? In addition to being a member of USDA, applicants for 501c3 exemption status must still follow all of the criteria established by the IRS for nonprofit status. The group's governing documents, their bylaws, standing rules, or articles of incorporation must include a number of commitments. The applicant's organization documents include a statement that they are organized exclusively for charitable, education, or scientific purposes. We typically feel like square dancing is an educational activity as we teach people to square dance. And they also need to include, in the purpose of making distributions to organizations that qualify under 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code for corresponding selection of any future federal tax code. They have to agree to abide by the bylaws of USDA, and as we said before, the Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics. And the important part here is you must include a dissolution clause stating that upon majority vote of the board of directors to dissolve the corporation, the executive committee of that corporation shall, after paying or making provisions for the payment of all the liabilities of the corporation, and what it boils down to is you need to distribute any excess funds as you close down an operation to another 501c3 organization. You can't give it to your cousin or your brother or some other for-profit entity. And your fiscal year of your group must coincide with that of USDA, January 1st to December 31st. And these things are all generally found on the USDA website. And we do have a document that provides there's an application. There's also instructions for the application procedures, and you can kind of walk your way through those. These are downloadable from the USDA website, and anyone needing to apply for membership can either be as an associate membership through being affiliated with one of the direct affiliates, and that would be a club or a regional group, or an affiliate that's already a member saves one step, but they don't have to apply for membership. And then membership applications for becoming an associate member are initiated through one of our regions. We're divided into 4 regions: Western, Plains, Central, and Eastern. And the vice presidents of these regions would be your first point of contact and for a membership application. And again, we do have the procedures. These are a step-by-step process for what you need to do to actually comply with everyone's requirements. And you need to have a letter on your group's letterhead indicating that your group has agreed to participate in the nonprofit exemption. And then there's the application itself. So again, you have to list your officers. You need to provide your governing documents, and this identifies what they are. And then there is a requirement for a financial statement for the most recent completed fiscal year. In this case, we'd probably be looking at 2021. So all that can be compiled and submitted. It can be submitted electronically. And our procedures have generally been that if you have any concerns about, do my documents really comply with everything, we ask that you submit the documents ahead of the money. We're not looking to take your money until your application is truly complete and complies with all of the criteria that the IRS is insisting on, and in turn, the USDA must also require these things. So USDA affiliate memberships are typically $25 to $100, depending on whether a state wants 4 votes or just 1 vote. A state wanting 4 votes pays the $100. A state wanting 1 vote is $25. And then the initial application fee for nonprofit status is $100. That's a one-time fee. That doesn't ever need to be paid again. But then there's an annual renewal fee to the IRS when you renew, typically in March of each year after completing the previous year's fiscal year. December 31st, you need to file those financials with our renewal department, which is Pat Inglis in Georgia. A single club, its annual membership dues would be $25, but again, there is still the initial application fee of $100 and then renewal fee of $50 each year. Each group must still file the annual reports with the IRS, the 990N or the 990EZ, which used to be a postcard. It can be done online. Yes, Bonnie?
I was going to ask, what is your typical turnaround time from the time that a club or group submits an application until when you get back to them?
It has been done as quickly as 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's kind of the streamlined version when the group has everything in order, and we let them know that they can go ahead and send their check for membership as necessary and their check for the application fee. And almost when we get those checks, the process is I initiate what's called the award letter. It goes to your specific group. It identifies your group as being recognized within the USDA group exemption as a 501c3, and you use the group exemption number when you need to be identified as a 501c3, and it has been working. I mean, groups that are participating have had success in using the system. They are recognized as 501c3s where they need to be, and it has paid dividends for some. Any questions from our vast audience today? And Carl, it seemed like I heard from a group in the Tucson area that was interested in getting involved, but I don't know that I've maintained their contact information.
Yeah, not really sure. I do know that there's a good number of clubs in Tucson, and they're just opening this year a new. They're calling it the Southern Dance Center. So they've got a facility down there. Got hold of one, and they're trying to promote it quite a bit now. So I've been following that on a lot of the posts that I've been seeing on Facebook. But I'm not familiar enough with the clubs down in Tucson to know which one might be associated there. I'm actually closer to Phoenix, so I usually focus my time up, in Maricopa and Phoenix. But I know a lot of the callers that are down in Tucson from travel, so I try to stay in touch when I can.
Okay, good. And Cheryl, we hope that you're able to get together for a meeting and can move forward with your desires to join the program.
Yes, Jim, I'm trying to remember all the questions that came up when we discussed this before, but one, we have 15 members, or 15 clubs in our federation currently. Does MDSDF, as the organization overseeing these 15 clubs, do we need to get the 501c3 approval first before any of our 15 clubs can apply?
No, you do not need to be a 501c3 for a club that's a member of Mason-Dixon to obtain the 501c3 status. So long as Mason-Dixon is a member of USDA, they have that, they're eligible for applying for the 501c3 status, no problem. And then if Mason-Dixon also wants the 501c3 status, that's just simply you're already paying membership dues, you're already a member, so that eliminates that particular step. You just need to file the application and then maintain your membership. So it's
okay. Well, currently, of course, because we don't really generate that much money, we've never had to pay federal or state taxes, but we do, depending upon when we have our annual festival, we have to deal with Baltimore County and meet some requirements with them of either paying a amusement tax of 10% of our registration fees, or they give us an option if we also can have a raffle for a charity that's located within Baltimore County, and we can pay the greater of either 10% of those registration fees or 51% of the net profit from this charity raffle and give that to the charity. And I'm not quite sure how all that's going to work out being a 501c3.
Well, it would seem that they
heard?
would be open to not charging you those taxes as a 501c3. And that way you could retain that 51% from the raffle. A lot of areas, I mean, here in California, we have difficulty holding what we would call a 50-50 or a raffle because you need to have actually a license from the state to do that. Some groups have gotten that, but it sounds like in your Maryland, there, Baltimore, they're almost seemingly encouraging you to do it so that you can, one of their charities can benefit, which is, it's a win-win situation. So that's good.
We do have to apply for what's known as a gaming and gathering permit, the gaming for the 50-50 and the gathering because we're holding an event within Baltimore County. And the application fees for that have gone up to $56 a day, which eats into a lot of the 50-50 profit because we have to pay that for each of the 3 days of the festival, which is them, unfortunately, sticking their hand into any activity they can and taking money.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Don't move to Baltimore.
Okay. Well, had a couple of nice national conventions there over the years, but okay.
That's true. Yes.
And you're free to contact me anytime with any questions that come up, and we'll certainly do our best to get you the information you need. Email is generally the best way to communicate with me. I still work full-time and I'm not home a lot, so email I'm able to respond to far more readily.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have any other questions about the program? Jim, have you had quite a few groups that have signed on so far?
We're about 12. We got about 8 this year. I mean, it's
That's
growing.
great.
Yeah, it's picking up, and every September, we file with the IRS the list of those groups, and then when those groups complete their 990s every April or whatever, they fall under that, they find themselves as part of the USDA group exemption. So the IRS, the system works. That's what we're pleased to report.
Yeah, that's
And-
what makes it nice. So many
Well-
people are hesitant to get involved with programs like that until they know more about it.
For a long time, the country Dance and Song Federation, Bonnie's Club actually got their 501c3 through that way back when. We sort of parallel what they do, but we do it more economically. They charge more than we do, and we don't intend to increase our fees. So.
So anybody have any other questions you want to ask, or?
Where is everybody today?
Well, we're on a third Saturday instead of a second Saturday, so we're not on a normal sequence, not on a normal cycle, and that's partially California's fault. So we'll take some of the heat for that. But yeah, and Pat Inglis is actually at the Georgia State Square Dance Convention, so she's where she's supposed to be, and hopefully having a good time. We just unfortunately picked an odd date, so we lost. We don't even have Steve on, who's been at every one of these. So
Right.
Steve Wernaski. So yeah, he hasn't missed one until now.
Yeah, a lot of it, just as I said earlier, it gets down to like as Jim said, this time it was our state council meetings, but we seem to be alternating between the second and third Saturdays because of the availability of our panelists to put the programs on for us. So you know, we do the best we can and hope we have people there. Plus there's just a lot of activities. I think quite a few festivals and conventions are happening across the country this weekend, and which is a good thing. That means people are getting out and dancing. So,
Right.
you know, that's always a positive.
Jerry and Donna headed to Florida.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, at the end of the month, we're gone out of here.
Escaping the rain and snow.
Yes, ma'am.
Ah,
We're looking to see if we can find a hurricane.
No.
oh, they were talking the hurricane that would hit Southern California, parts of it, and then up north this weekend that we were supposed to be getting some effects from a typhoon. I'm actually in Central California, and we have absolutely beautiful weather, so I'm not complaining. I hope we do get some rain up north.
We have beautiful weather here right now, but we know what's coming.
Yeah, that's it. Get out while you can.
That's right.
Jim, I had a question for you. Are your forms set up? Is it just a printout PDF, or are they ones that can be filled in online?
They're supposed to be filled in online. I mean, if you got the right Adobe nowadays lets you type on most anything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's the preferred method. They're theoretically were created as fillable PDFs, but
Oh, good.
we haven't had a lot of people have a lot of success utilizing them, it seems. So anyway.
Okay.
Jim,
All
to
right.
review the costs again. So you would basically, we submit the documents and you approve it and everything looks good. And then we submit it with the $100 fee, one-time fee. And I got confused when you were talking about one or four for $25 or $100. I didn't understand that one.
Okay, no, the $25 would be like for a club to become an associate member of USDA, independent of their membership in Mason-Dixon. Mason-Dixon as a
Okay.
member would not be paying any additional dues to USDA, but there is the $50 renewal of the 501c3 each year when you file with USDA your financials. Those financials are just kept for USDA records, are not shared with the IRS. I think the IRS is looking for somebody else to do their work and not have them have to do it, but you do still have to file the the Form 990N or 990EZ, which can be done online and it's really pretty easy, but just have to check some boxes and report some things. But that does need to be done by every group, and every group needs to have an employer identification number because your bank is going to insist that you have an employer identification number these days. So you don't want it in your treasurer's social security number. You want it to be under the club's identification number.
So if we have a caller-run club and they have never gotten an IRS employer number and they're just doing all of this under their own as being a self-employed square dance caller, how does that going to affect anything if one of these 15 clubs that MDSDF has, they don't have an EIN number from IRS?
Well, that, like you say, they are really not a nonprofit. They are a for-profit for the operator of the group. So I don't know that they're going to qualify in that particular instance. Other clubs that have have officers and whatnot, there's no problem. And square dance in the state of condition it's in today, there are groups that on paper have officers but are run by the caller. And those are seemingly still qualifying as dancer run groups and are not necessarily a for-profit group, although they generally are, but nobody's getting rich at this point. So
Okay, so IRS is not going to delve into the status of each of the 15 clubs. It's kind of up to each of those clubs to be able to get themselves on track, that IRS isn't going to ding us for not having full compliance.
yeah,
If that's a good word.
each group, each club within Mason-Dixon is its own entity, and they would have to do their own thing individually. Mason-Dixon could become a 501c3 independent of those groups. And just so everyone is clear that Mason-Dixon gets the 501c3 and does not cover your members. Each entity has to be a standalone 501c3.
Okay.
Yeah, Donna?
Jim, my question is, you said that the affiliates, or if you want to be a part of 501c3, they have to fill out their roster of their officers and so forth. How is that, or does it have to be updated?
That the updates come in with the annual financials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, yep. That's part of the financial process every year. So yeah, it's at least a point of contact, the president and treasurer typically, maybe not the whole list of officers, but, and we don't go into members, individual dancer members. We don't maintain any kind of list like that.
So this is what you're just talking about. That's separate than what sends into Jim Taylor with the annual dues when we submit that form.
Correct. The annual dues go to Jim Taylor typically in the fall, like you should be paying your dues sometime September, October, November kind of a thing. Then the renewal goes to Pat Inglis in Georgia with the $50 renewal and the financial, and that's generally done in like March or April.
Okay.
So that you get your fiscal year closed by December 31st and prepare your report for 2022 now will be done next March and submitted.
So are you wanting, for USDA, do they want a copy of the tax return that we filled out, a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement?
Tax forms are not important. We have a form where you list your assets and liabilities. It's a simple form. It's generally a profit and loss, but it just shows what you have in the bank and how you spent your money.
Okay.
Yeah, the form should be somewhat self-explanatory. I mean, we try to make these things in English and user-friendly, but maybe we haven't succeeded 100%.
Jim, if a group was to sign up now and say their approval is all said and done the 1st of November, and they've paid the fees for this year, when it comes around to March, do they have to again pay that renewal at that time, or do they get a full year before they have to do a renewal?
No, that's a good point. They would have to pay in November and then again in March.
Okay.
And their membership would kind of be the same way. Although the membership, yeah. I mean, there's the application fee would be paid this year, then the renewal fee would be paid next year. So it'd be $100 this year, $50 next year. Does that make sense? And a membership would be due, for actually, we're collecting dues now for 2023. So it probably wouldn't be an issue with the dues. You'd probably just ignore that. But the application fee and then the renewal fee next year. Yeah. And USDA as a service organization, we're not looking to gouge anybody or to make this difficult on anybody. We're trying to help groups get what they need to enjoy the benefits of 501c3 nonprofit status.
So Jim, if our organization was, I'm going to use 2 examples. One is going to be, we're having a meeting and we want to buy coffee and donuts. Would we have like a letter from either USDA or the IRS showing us to be exempt, that we don't have to buy coffee or we don't have to pay sales tax to the state of Maryland when we buy coffee and paper cups and plates?
The sales
That's
tax is kind of a state by state, controlled by the states. They may or may not grant you exemption from sales tax. But yes, you will have what we call an award letter. It'll be addressed to the group and state that you are in fact a 501c3 under the USDA group exemption. But the sales tax issue is something that would be by locale.
Okay, so but this letter is going to be something that USDA would give to us, not IRS.
Correct. But then when you file your 990 in the spring, you would show up as a USDA entity. And you could conceivably get a
Okay.
copy of that as you file your forms.
So the other half of my question is, when we hold our local festival, we have to pay sales tax as well as a hospitality tax to the hotel. And I guess probably your answer again is going to be, it depends upon the laws within the state of Maryland as to whether we could be exempt from having to pay that sales tax to the hotel.
Yes, I would suspect that you're still going to have to pay those taxes. And the hospitality tax, I think that's something that the hotel just adds on because they can.
Yes.
It's just like tipping your server at dinner. I mean, sometimes they include it in your bill and sometimes they don't, but we should be able to tip them as we choose. But well, we appreciate you joining us today, and we understand that we are few, but we are mighty, and we're happy to help anytime we can.
Do all of you have Jim's email address? Or do you want me to put it in the chat?
Put it in the chat just so that they can have access to it if they need it.
All right, do you want it
that'd
to
be
be your
great.
personal one, or do you want to do a different email?
Oh, a personal one works pretty good.
Okay. And it's san.rr.com.
Oh,
Great. Okay, so if you think of other questions and like in your case, Cheryl, if you end up talking to your group and you have more questions, I've just posted, oops, I did it just to Carl. So let me do it to everybody.
Well,
Oh, you can't see it anyway. Cheryl, do you have something you can write down?
yes,
I thought Cheryl and I had been communicating, but okay.
JMACZKO at SAN, SAN .RR.com.
thank you.
And that way you can email Jim directly if when you're talking to your group, you come up with other questions you might have for him before you submit.
Thank you very much, because we already have one club that I mistakenly told them that we had to get 501c status first before they could. So they're downstairs dancing right now. I will go down and correct that information in the next hour.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Anybody think of anything else?
What we have to realize is that we are dealing with the IRS and nobody understands them. And so we're trying to help make things a little bit easier, but it's the federal government and we do what we can.
Yes, we do. All right.
Jim, congratulations. Well done as always.
Right.
We appreciate
thank
it.
Yes, thank you very
And-
much. And I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
make sure I pass the word to clubs down here in the Arizona, Southern Phoenix area, because every time I go, thank you.
Terrific.
Appreciate that, Carl. Good.
And Jerry and Donna, safe travels to you as you transfer over to Florida.
Thank
Cheryl
you.
and Carl, thank you both for joining us today, and it's nice to meet both of you. Cheryl, I know you've participated before, but Carl, I know you're new, so welcome and thank you so much. Jim and Patty, as always, like Jerry said, you did a great job. Thank you so much. Lots of good information. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Go away part of it.
Have a fun reunion, Bonnie.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited. It's we've got about 60 people coming.
And you called me older and this is your 90th high school reunion. So
Well, for me, it's 49, but because we're such a small group, we do multiple year and we've started having this every year because we're losing so many folks, illness, death, moving out of state. So it's just a great get together. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. And I started out with a youth soccer game, watching 5 to 7-year-olds play soccer. So it's for an interesting day.
all right. Well,
All right. Patty, we'll have our display set up at Harvest Hoedown, so you won't have to bring, unless you just bring your notes and stuff.
Okay, I'll just bring all my forms and my ribbons and everything else. And
Yeah.
you're gonna let me know, please, if you have the bottles of gold so that I don't have to go ballistic and tear apart my house.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing I probably do, but
I'm guessing that you probably do too.
yeah, the guys probably, but when I get home tomorrow, I'll try to check it. So
Oh, okay, so
Um,
then you, if that's the case, then you can bring that along at.
Oh, yeah.
Harvest Hoedown.
well, that's the whole thing is I have that suitcase and that bag that are
Right,
just display stuff. So I don't really get in and out of it unless I'm going somewhere where I need something. So
yeah.
how are you doing on flyers?
we're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because,
I brought home the stack that you gave me at USA West. It's
okay. Well, the
about
reason
an
I'm,
inch thick.
okay, yeah, the reason I'm asking is that was the last of the flyers I had.
Yeah,
So we may want to get more printed, but I'm gonna start pushing, now that USA West is over, I'm gonna start pushing it again. It was getting too lost in all the USA West promotions, which
well,
worked well
right,
for you guys, but
right.
I
know it, because that was kind of a sticky time doing the early birds. Because I
Yeah.
kept thinking, okay, what hat do I have on? And I only mixed up one, but I caught it.
oh, good. Yeah, Well, it's just like I went dancing Wednesday night at our club, and fortunately, the Harvest Hoedown pre-reg chairman, it's Jay Aldrich's wife. And so Jay was dancing in the other room. We have one club dances mainstream plus in one room, and we dance advanced in the other. So people in our room were giving me their registration forms for Harvest Hoedown. So I was just walking them over to the other room, so I didn't have to mail them or
Yeah,
mess with anything. So
So Harvest Hoedown registrations are picking up.
I don't know. There's a meeting tomorrow afternoon that I should be able to get back for unless something happens. I'm having breakfast with my family in the morning, and then I'm heading out from there. But the meeting's at 4, so I don't know if I'll, depending on traffic, I don't know if I'll make it or not. It took me an hour to get through San Luis Obispo last night. There was an accident on Cuesta Grade, and it was right at the beginning of it, but I started getting, after the walkthrough, I'd gone to Pismo Beach, and I just sat on the beach for 3 hours. And when I got in the car to start driving up, just at the really south end of San Luis Obispo, we started being bumper to bumper, and it was that way. And it literally took me an hour to get from one end of San Luis to the north end, just below at the bottom of the grade. So that was kind
That's
of a
not
nightmare.
fun.
No, it's not. So, and I know I hit some traffic backups coming down on I-5. So, I just give it my best shot. If I get there in time, I get there, but Katie is not expecting me. I've already given her my reports and stuff. So, but I'm hoping it'll pick up. People just don't seem to want to commit out early. And I think that's what we're going to face. I'm going to be very
Yeah.
curious I didn't expect to do much at USA West other than just promote. I'm really counting on Harvest Hoedown
Sure.
because
Right.
it's the same facility. And if we don't do well there, I'm kind of concerned.
Yeah, sitting at registration, I've heard several people say, though, we don't pay until the last minute, we'll decide then. And they
Right.
don't mind paying the extra money, but we don't know they're coming. So
Right. Well, and it's just tough because, we did better than I expected for the early bird.
yes, you did very well
but-
on that.
Then it gets down to, like anything, nobody wants to sign up early. And then, they're like Rivco, they want to sign up for Rivco, and then all of a sudden Rivco gets canceled after they've started promoting it. I saw where that Rogue River Festival was getting canceled.
Where is that? Oh, Oregon.
It's up in Oregon.
Yeah.
Ricky Lobato is involved with that. And she didn't say why they had to cancel. My guess it's like Rivco, it's a facility. But, with John and Mike, it's taken them forever to get a facility that would respond to them.
Well,
And Hanford kept them on the ropes for over a year and finally just totally quit responding to them. So when Santa Maria came in and, very helpful, very helpful.
yeah,
And
talking about, go ahead.
that's for 24 state convention. But, when you can't get the facilities and then they turn around and they jack up the prices, that's what we faced. And it's, and then, if people test positive and, get exposed, and even those of us that are vaccinated and boosted and everything, we're still getting sick, and people just don't want to commit, it's frustrating.
Well, in the square dance world, it's still kind of on their head, I think.
Yeah.
Because Fiesta has no facilities for this
Yeah.
year.
Well, and that's the whole thing. It's like all of the places we used to go to promote our events are
Yeah,
not happening. So you don't get
Exactly.
that in-person encouragement to join.
well, look,
it-
we didn't even have an in-person council meeting where we could pass the things out like we're
No.
supposed to.
No. And, if they continue to have their way with that, we'll only have one in-person meeting a year. And then I'm sure we'll struggle to get enough bodies to, be legitimate because everybody wants to do it by Zoom.
Yeah, Well, the
And-
big thing is publicity. I mean, Sally
Yeah.
sent out a lot of emails reminding people to do
Right.
this and so, or this is the point at which you should do this. And she kept it out there in the forefront. So
Oh,
I
she
think
did.
that's what helped us.
Yeah, between her and Sherry, yeah. I know I'm past her deadline, but I still have to give her my report. I just was not, I was 2
Yeah.
weeks of not functioning. So,
Yeah,
you know, and even now this last week, it had been hard to be on the computer and stuff all day and turn around and try to do something on the computer at night. It just, I was just like overloaded, but
sure.
I know that Mike and John got numbers for me on Saturday in the main room and all of that. So, and I've got to go through all the evaluations and see if there's any topic suggestions for future, but I felt good about how the program went all in all.
Oh, yeah. The
You know.
the education program here was outstanding.
Yeah. And I
It
talked to
was.
Buddy Weaver about doing a music licensing program for us for one of these webinars. So I'm hoping to get him for like February or March. So anyway, anything else new and exciting with you guys?
Don Schultz, remember him from Reno?
Yeah.
Did she pass away? He was at Silver State by himself. Or seemed to be, and he was using a cane. He wasn't doing all that well.
Well, I know that he had health issues, but I hadn't heard that she had passed away.
Yeah, and then Karen Smith is seemingly still hanging in there as of USA West.
Like Dave and Karen with
Yes.
the son that's,
Yes, that Karen.
oh, okay.
But just before Golden State, I got a call from both Danny and from David. And so we actually went and saw Karen Memorial Day weekend.
What happened with her?
She just, well, she's had
Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's for a while and she fell and bruised her hip
Oh.
really bad. And she weighs more than he does and he
Yeah.
couldn't
he
even
could-
get her into bed, but she was they had hospice care there and,
Oh,
Oh.
I hadn't heard any of that.
okay.
Again with
Good.
COVID, my sister-in-law's aunt passed away. And I didn't know that until I got here, but they had just, Jerry and Wade had just moved into a assisted living and Wade has Alzheimer's really bad. Well, then I guess they were only there a couple of days and Jerry fell and broke her hip. They took her to the hospital and they put her under anesthesia and she put off a lot of other surgeries because of her cancer history and her issues with the anesthesia. And apparently they gave her some of that and she was in a coma for 5.5 days and never woke up from it. And so it's just like, I think, some of the communication is just, with us not dancing and not going to festivals and stuff, we miss out on what's happening with people. I don't know. I was asking Phil and Sue yesterday about Don and Lexi Benson. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize they had moved back to Lombok with their son.
Oh, I hadn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard it.
Lexi had Alzheimer's for quite a while.
Yeah.
And Don is in his 90s. So,
Wow.
yeah, I didn't realize they were that old. So it's, we're just all those people that were always such active, involved folks, and we're all getting
Oh,
up
yeah.
there. So I don't know, but I do think we may have found a wagon master for 23.
Good.
Dave and Susan Cleek were on the tour with us yesterday. And
Good.
as kind of an offhand, I said something and they're pretty confident that they'll come on as our wagon masters.
Nice.
So yeah, I was
I-
thrilled with that. They were just
I'm-
going to go back and check their calendar. And do you know, are they already registered for state?
Cleek,
Yeah.
Yeah, they
suspect
might,
they
they
probably
might
have.
be.
They thought they were, but they weren't sure, and they were asking me, and I said, no, I gotta ask Patty.
Yeah. Well, Jim's looking right now,
Well, I'm
Okay.
trying to.
or trying to.
Yeah,
I was
I
trying,
have trouble because I recognize names and I don't know if they're with USA West or. if they're
Oh,
state.
I realized that, and
But I think they might have signed up in Reno or
Golden State.
at Golden State, probably.
yeah,
I'm trying to get a registration form for Harvest Hoedown so I can fill it out and mail it in.
oh,
We have
but
some, I may have one. in
Cliques
the
are
folder.
registered for 23 state conventions.
oh, good. They thought they were, but they wanted to make sure, and Susan said she'd go and block the dates out on her calendar.
Yeah,
So-
well.
If she looks at her ribbon, she'll know when to go.
Well,
did
we
they
were at
pay
the
for
meeting
RV?
when, and we didn't have any of that stuff with us, so,
Did they pay for RV?
They paid for 3 nights RV,
oh, good.
but they got to add 2 more, or you can comp them those 2, and
Yeah,
because they
I'm
paid
sure
the
we'll
full,
do that.
they paid the full price instead of the
committee rate.
committee rate. So give them 2
Yeah.
more days of RV space.
Yeah, yeah, I
We'll let
just.
the- We'll let the wagon master figure that out. Oh, that's them. I guess they can
Yes,
figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good to know.
Right.
Like I say, they were pretty sure they were, but you know,
Yep.
like I say, and of course, John, every time we mentioned anything about any other convention other than theirs, he kept saying, this is a 24 meeting. This is a 24 meeting. So he was giving us a real hard time.
That's John or Mike.
John,
Yes.
John. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're both great. I mean,
They
they're doing
are.
a super job. I mean, I'm
They are.
impressed. I'm
Well,
impressed
and-
with them.
yes, and what I appreciate is they're gonna come, they're on our 22-3 convention committee, but they're also gonna come up to Harvest Hoedown and help with facilities so that they can just, you know, increase that awareness of all the things that are happening and going on, so.
Yeah, they need to follow some of the chairman around, see what they
And-
do,
Well-
shadow them.
And they're very much trying to do that, and everything, any form I create, any report I do, whatever, I make sure they get a copy of it. So that I said, I don't care if you use it or not, but it just lets you know, and if there's anything that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Other than to change the name of the convention. You know, so
Well-
that's pretty much what they did with their budget, is they just took our budget and format and everything, and I, you know, had given them all the count codes that we had signed, assigned and all that kind of stuff. And, you
Yeah,
know,
they're
so
receptive to
very much.
whatever
And
you send them, and that's good, unlike
it-
some people I know.
When have we ever gotten a written Golden Dancer report or a written handicapable report? John
Oh, I
put
know.
those out before the meeting. Yeah, never
Yeah.
happened before.
now they did do a vote, that they're gonna start giving out dangles for Golden Dancer. Somebody had requested, and John and Mike had talked to me about it a while back, and I said, what you want to do is get your pricing, you know, how many you think you're gonna need and all of that, and I said, present it as a whole package so that council knows, so that they've gone in and they've added a budget line item for him to be able to get, I think it was 50 dangles. So that and they're not gonna do them retroactive. They'll give them to anybody that they've awarded this year, but they're not gonna go back to like last year or previous years.
Yeah,
But
you can't
because-
afford to do that.
Well, no, but all, what they're gonna do is, since he's gonna get them from Signs by Scott.
Yeah.
If, for example, you wanted to go up and purchase your own dangle, you
Yeah,
could do that directly from, so that's what they're gonna say is, you know, we're gonna award them and, you know, moving forward. But if you're a past recipient and you want one, you can just go buy one.
yeah,
Good.
So that helps both,
that's a good plan.
yeah, Signs by Scott and all of that. So. Anyway,
Okay.
well, this has been fun. I'm sorry you didn't have more people, but I just think there's a lot going on
Yeah.
this,
well,
you know, so,
Well,
But I
the
think
people
those were-
that were there did ask questions, so
yes.
if we were able to help them, that's good.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's looking at starting up some clubs,
Yeah,
down there, I think is great. Because he's in an area that's between the two cities, so he says there's really nothing where he's at. So I think that's a good option, so.
Super.
Okie dokies. Well, kids, it's been fun, but I think I'm gonna,
Did you see
grab
Buddy
something.
Weaver's video?
what's that?
Did you see Buddy Weaver's video?
Oh, no. Oops. You know what? I'm gonna stop the recording.